see that?
When they're stalking, they're very smart.
It's hunting you.
We are talking about the 2013 found footage movie called The Woods. This one is also known as Bigfoot Trail, and this one is directed by Mark Backe, who also stars in this as the male lead, co-starring along with Rebecca Davis. Now this focuses on a couple as they are wanting to create a kind of hoax video of Bigfoot. Now these two guys don't believe in Bigfoot, they're just kind of trying to make some type of YouTube sensation, hoax video, etc. And they start off by going a kind of a Blair Witch style faux documentary where they're interviewing people and such like that with kind of reported evidence, and then off to the woods themselves to essentially go down in this the path of these people who are murdered or apparently went missing in the woods, like some sort of 10 years before this movie is actually set. And of course, as you probably would expect, things don't go quite to plan, and they may well be some truth to the legend after all. So what's this movie like? Let's discuss The Woods. What works in the woods? So I've got to say this movie, first of all, is very much a standard found footage movie. It's very kind of like of its type, kind of nothing really to kind of particularly kind of stand out from it. But I've got to say I thought the acting was pretty good. Rebecca Davis and Mark Backe, who play the couple in this movie, I actually thought did a fairly sort of respectable job here of kind of making believable characters who were, they were somewhat kind of duplicitous because obviously they're kind of out there trying to kind of, essentially make a hoax movie, but it kind of gave them a little bit more a three-dimensional kind of feel, if that makes sense, because they are somewhat kind of flawed people, not kind of like your typical kind of altruistic kind of protagonists that sometimes you'll get. So I call it just the general acting between these two guys I actually thought was very natural and seemed like kind of genuine people, especially when they have obviously the inevitable kind of arguments between the two. I actually thought they did a pretty good job there. And this isn't one of the movies that will kind of give you blue balls with no kind of monster footage. I mean, it's sparse and very quick, but we do see some kind of shots of, some type of creature in the woods, and it's kind of peppered throughout the kind of the movie. Or they are, a couple of 1 or 2 second shots here and there, but there is kind of maybe enough there to make you feel like they have had some type of creature effect and stuff like that within the kind of the movie. And I've got to say, I thought the actual the setup of the movie very easy to follow. It's not particularly kind of a convoluted plot or anything like that. So if you just kind of want something to kind of chuck on, then it works quite well. And I kind of think the actual wood setting, along with the kind of obviously the low lighting, does work to create some kind of like some spooky atmosphere, and has some kind of like you do get the impression these guys are kind of lost in the woods, with the exception of one thing which I'll come on to. But what doesn't work for me? So this movie, like I've said, is just a standard found footage film. This in no way kind of like excels in any kind of particular kind of aspect of this movie, of this kind of genre, of this kind of style of filmmaking. It's very much just a standard cookie cutter found footage movie. People go in the woods, they find something they shouldn't, and then they run away. That's pretty much your plot. But a couple of things did kind of bother me a little bit about it. Although I kind of quite like the obviously this woodland setting, and it does look very creepy at times, I can't help but feel they're using the same kind of area over and over again. We're meant to believe are different areas, because there's a kind of like a structure of rocks that they use, and it looks the same in every kind of like where we're meant to believe it's different kind of places. And I can't help but just kind of feel looking at the same kind of like cluster of rocks, but just trying to do it at a different angle, but to pretend that it's kind of the same. Different rocks. I don't know if that's true, but it just seemed like that way to me. The other thing, as I would say with this movie, this is I would say my biggest legitimate criticism with this film, is that the last act of this movie drags. Now you would have thought that would be the most exciting part, because that ultimately is where we get the creature chasing down, obviously the characters, and that is true. But the problem is that it just seems to kind of rinse and repeat. So there's loads of scenes where you know, we have our character run away, and we see like the creature right behind them, and literally right behind them in cases, and then it'll cut and it'll be a day scene, and they've somehow got away, and it does it about like 4 or 5 times. I thought, come on, this is just taking the piss now. Especially you know, it's one of these films where it shows you the ending at the beginning, so we kind of know how it ends up. It doesn't make any real sense, and it just feels like it's kind of dragging out to try and make it a feature-length film. Maybe they kind of, you know, that they needed to make a certain runtime to get obviously a film distribution, so they've kind of just padded it out more or less, kind of doing the same thing over and over. And honestly, it happens about 4 or 5 times, and it's kind of getting this movie feels like it's never going to end. I also don't see these people eat anything. I mean, there's kind of like we get it's maybe set over kind of like 5 or 6 nights, and although there is a stream, so I can grant you that then they might be able to get water, we never actually see these people eat anything or really complain about being hungry. There's also a little bit of a plot hole in regards to the kind of the previous people that were apparently murdered. Apparently there was no witnesses, but they seem to know this kind of the story, and what happened to them doesn't really make sense. So overall, this movie is okay. You know, it's a passable found footage movie. It's made, I feel, with a, you know, of a reasonable quality, but doesn't do anything to excel in the genre. And there are a few kind of annoyances. And I said that the last act to me gets a little repetitive. So I'll give this one a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time.